Hey Modrunners, welcome back for another episode. Sorry about the sound this week, but my mic battery died, so I have to do the on-camera mic for the sound today. So it's going to be a little echoey, but next week I should be able to be back with the regular good sound for a new battery. This has been the most requested video of all of my videos, and it is how to make the upper armor for the How to Train Your Dragon 2. I've had several requests about this tutorial, so most likely this is going to be split into two parts because it's going to be fairly long. I will do my best to insert pictures so you can see my process. I'm obviously not going to go remake a new video of making this, but I will show you the process on how I came about making this upper armor. As you can see, there are several different stages to go through to get this. You have your upper body piece, you have the collar, you have the buttons, the buckle, the shoulders. So I'm going to start off by kind of talking you through my process and photographs that I had been taking along the way when I started making this costume. You saw the costume from the Comic-Con. I will actually do a full costume video with pictures. I'm actually having some pictures taken this weekend in costume. So I will have that up at another future date, along with some of the other tutorials people have been asking for. But bear with me, each video takes a while to make, both filming, editing, and putting everything together, and I don't want to always do all costume stuff because there's other things to my channel. So with that being said, we'll get started, but I'm going to have another favor for you to ask. If while you're watching the videos, please share them with your friends. The more people that see these videos, the more likely I'm going to be making more videos. So if you want to see more videos, thumb up, share the videos, and click on the ads. It will help me out a lot. So with that being said, let's get started on how I got through and making the upper armor for this video. And like I said, this will most likely be part one of a two-part series. Alright, so here we go. This is, as you can see, a close-up of the upper armor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through the process, and I'm going to insert some pictures so that you can see the process on how I actually got to the making of the upper armor. So let's just go and get started and show you how I actually started. Basically, here's the first picture. I started with getting myself wrapped in duct tape. I bought an inexpensive t-shirt, and my girlfriend wrapped me and taped me up in duct tape so that I could actually get an idea of the fit for my own body, as well as kind of figuring out where the curvature, where the pieces are going to fold over and wrap around. So that's basically what happened, is that now we'll go back to live. Here we go. So after it was wrapped in duct tape, we cut it, and we figured out exactly how it was going to be, where the pieces were going to be cut across. So I drew the line there, cut it out, and then I had to add more duct tape because obviously it was one piece at starting, and you know where the buckle was going to fold over, and had to get the actual pattern, as you can see here, of the front and the back. So this is the right front, this is the left front, and this is the upper pattern. So this is, you know, the t-shirt and the duct tape. And then, just like I did from all of the other stuff that I do, is I carve it out onto yoga mat. And here we go. And I actually had to extend it a little bit more, so I had to add a little bit more yoga mat so that I get the right shape for the upper armor. And that's basically how it works. You basically wrap yourself in duct tape, you draw it out, and then once you carve it out onto the yoga mat, you can put it on and you can see exactly, you know, maybe you need to add a little bit more to your pattern before you start cutting it out on leather, because leather is expensive. And this is roughly the same thickness as the leather, so you can get an idea of where your armholes, where it's going to be sewn, how you're going to position it to get the upper armor. And so after I carved out the upper armor, and we'll actually go through and I'll show you some more pictures now. Here is a picture of the upper armor cut out onto the leather, and the back of it, you can actually see how it's sewn. And now, you know, back to the front. So after it was sewn together. Alright, so working on the collar was a bit of a challenge because I didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing to get this raised collar here. And the suggestion was to actually wet mold it and then carve it up. So what I did is I got a pipe here, and I wrapped it in duct tape so I can kind of get the rough idea of the size of my neck, so that when I go to the picture, which I'll show you right now, you can actually see it's actually being wet molded. Put it in the boiling or the 107-degree water, it's nice and wet, and then wrapped around the pipe and then tacked down onto the wood so that when it dries, it has that nice rounded shape. So the pipe here was great in terms of being able to wrap the leather around it and kind of hold its form. After it dried, I was able to trim it up and then sew it onto the actual armor. And here's a picture of it being on, before it was trimmed up, on the actual upper armor. You can see the neck is giant. But the cool thing about leather is that once you trim it and then you dye it, you never know that there was a lopsidedness to it. So you just trim up to the right size, how high you wanted. Yeah, I think it was around 2.5 or 3 inches tall around my neck. And you can size it to whatever size you are, so that you can actually get it. And then trim it up. And here's a picture of it being trimmed before it's dyed. So you can see it actually being trimmed up. And it's sized up really nicely. So that's basically working on the collar. The next thing I started to do is I started to actually make the shoulders. Now, to make the shoulders, they're rounded, and this is where I used the same rubber ball, that green rubber ball, to shape my shoulder. So, and I don't have it because I used it to make the helmet as well, but basically I cut a rubber ball and I put it on my shoulders, and then I cut it so that it was kind of in that same shoulder design, and then I cut it onto my yoga mat. And so by cutting it on the yoga mat, I had an idea. Now, this is where I made my mistake. I mentioned it in my earlier videos. It's actually only sliced here. It's not sliced here. So if I were to remake this, I would try and find a way to create it by getting that rounded shape with just the one. But it's really difficult because when you have a natural rubber ball that's rounded, it doesn't want to lay flat. So that's the reason why I also didn't have the actual movie yet to design it, so that I knew that it was not, you know, on both sides. So for me, I sliced it down here because remember again, it was rounded, and then once you cut it, it'll lay flat so that when I can cut it onto yoga mats, I knew my pattern for my leather. And now here's a picture of it being cut onto leather. And then, once again, wet molding. Stick it in the boiling water, wrapping it around. And at this point I did 2 shoulders, but I only used one because the shield had a completely different size. So here's a picture of both shoulders. And now you can see it actually being formed and being put onto the upper armor. And that is basically the shoulder molding. The next thing we have is the shield, and I'm going to stop this video at the shield, and then we'll pick up with everything else in the hardware in the next video for next week. So the shield, once again, onto the rubber ball, designing, kind of adding more pieces to it to figure out exactly where it needs to be cut, and then cutting it onto the yoga mat, and then cutting it out onto the leather. And here's a picture of both. There's 2 layers of the shield. Back to the live, you can see the shield here has an underlayer as well as this main layer, and then the final, these last little design stuff is glued on top of. And we'll talk about that in a second. So the shield, back to the picture, you can see there before it was dyed, the under shield is all stitched and the stitches are all hidden, so it doesn't really matter. But the upper part of the shield does have, according to the pictures in the movie, does have the splitting on the sides there. And that's the reason why, and back to the video, that's the reason why it's split in a couple of different locations. So you can see here that it's split and it's stitched in a couple of different places. And then after that, everything was all dyed, and you can see some pictures of everything being dyed black. And then working on the actual this pieces here, and then dyeing those red. And so that is the part 1 of 2 parts for the upper armor. Next week will be the buckles and all the hardware, as well as these pauldrons pieces. Okay, so that's part 1, and next week we're going to be talking about the hardware and the buckles, the pauldrons, and everything else. I hope these are helpful. This is the one that you've been asking for the most, so so there you go. There's the part 1 of it. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share the videos. Really spread it out there. Let everybody see them. Click on the ads. You know, even if you let them run for, you know, click it on, let the pop-up go up, and then, you know, let them go away for, or maybe they might be cool. Check out the ads. I don't know. But please subscribe and do all that stuff for me. Next week, part 2. And then some other stuff the following weeks. Like I said in some previous videos, I might go to a bi-monthly every other week, just because I'm running out of time making these videos and doing all the other stuff that I do. So I'm glad you're liking it. I'm almost at 100 subscribers. I think I'm at 97 as of today. So thank you so much for watching the videos, everybody. Go out, make your costumes, or whatever it is. But whatever it is, make sure you find your passion.